Phillip Cocu, what an absolute pleasure. I mean, Faiz, selalunya kita membesar tengok Phillip Cocu di kaca television, pasukan-pasukan ikonik Belanda, Barcelona, PSV. Aku tak pernah bayang yang satu hari nanti kita akan ada Phillip Cocu di sini berborak dengan kita di Bola Itu Life.
10 tahun lepas, tahun 2012, ketika aku serumah dengan botak, kalau aku kata dekat dia hari tu, 10 tahun lagi aku akan interview Phillip Cocu sebelah aku. Dia kan, aku tak tahu, mungkin dia tak mau kawan dah dengan aku time tu.
Essentially, Phillip, what we're saying is, we grew up watching you on our TV screens. We were absolute fanboys growing up. The iconic Dutch teams, Barcelona at its absolute best, PSV Eindhoven, and that iconic striped shirt as well. And it's just unbelievable that we have you here to be able to have a chat with us. First and foremost, how are you, Phillip?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy it's possible again to travel a little bit, to show yourself and to meet people again. Actually, it's the first time I've been to Malaysia. So yeah, it's a combination of work and trying to see the city and something of the island. Yeah, so it's great to be here.
Is this your first time going outside of Europe since COVID?
Let me think. Yes, I think so. Outside of Europe, I've been traveling through Europe because that's a little bit more easy, especially this summer. This is my first trip, international.
We don't want to waste any more time. We want to talk to you about an iconic player that you've played with. I want to take you back to 1995.
Summer of 95.
In the summer of 95. I mean, you were born in Eindhoven, but obviously you went and played at various different clubs. In the summer of 95, you come back to PSV Eindhoven. You play for PSV Eindhoven. You sign for them. And you're walking into the dressing room for the first time. And then you come across this kid who the last season just completely shocked everyone in the Netherlands and Europe. And he goes by the name of Ronaldo. Obviously, he's got a longer name, but the name that everybody remembers him by, Ronaldo.
Fenomeno.
Fenomeno, exactly. Yeah. What were your first impressions of him walking into the dressing room in 95?
Yeah, he was still a very young boy, down to earth, maybe almost a little bit shy. To the art, he played already a season in Holland, so he tried to convince the people that he couldn't speak Dutch so well. But soon, after 1 or 2 weeks, we knew as players that he could speak Dutch quite well. So he was clever, but he was really apart from his football qualities, because what he could do on his age was unbelievable. But he was a really nice guy. Who traveled a long way to get his career going. Was happy to be in Eindhoven. Had good contact with his teammates. He was really an open and fun guy. I spent a lot of time with him. He was really pleasant guy to, apart from the football off the pitch, to hang out with.
Still with the Ronaldo topic, you have played abroad during your playing career too. Ronaldo was coming to Eindhoven, a city in the Netherlands, at a very young age. And at that particular time, Phillip, a club cannot have too many foreigners in the team, right? Maybe 90% of the squad at that time at PSV was Dutch. And you have, 3 to 4 players that is non-Dutch. Does that make it harder for players like him or players like you at that time to go abroad and play, in a different country, different location altogether?
Yeah, I think it was very difficult for him because, like you said, there were only a few foreign players. On the other hand, you have to make sure that you integrate quite fast, because if there are too many Brazilian players, maybe you tend to only talk to them. So he integrated really fast and learned the language, went out and.
Obviously, you helped him. The going out part, yeah? You helped him.
Yeah, of course. Of course, you have to show him around in the town, and but I can imagine if you're 17, you come from Brazil, go on your own, maybe he had a friend with him who helped him, but still, it's not easy. I went abroad when I was much older, and already more Dutch players were present. So for me, it was different. But I can imagine for him was not easy, and to perform like that in his first and second season, he was
First season, 33 games, 30 goals.
Yeah, yeah.
And-
yeah.
and-
I
Imagine
tried, but no, I couldn't do it.
Phillip, obviously that first season when he completely exploded at PSV, you weren't there yet. But you had already observed him. I'm pretty sure you watched him. I'm pretty sure the entirety of Netherlands was aware of this kid called Ronaldo. Was there a small part of you, coming back or signing for PSV Eindhoven? There's obviously a lot of attractions. It is where you were born. It is a city that you're very familiar with. But was a small part of that also that excitement that I'm going to get to play with this kid that's so incredible in Ronaldo?
Well, maybe a small part, because what you want, I played at Vitesse, so we played against PSV, and he scored. So of course I knew him. You want to play with the best. So for me, to make the step from Vitesse, who played like on the 4th, 5th position every year, did really well. But to go to one of the top clubs with those players like Ronaldo or Niels, it pushes yourself to being a better player as well. And of course, to train with him makes you a better player as well. Every day on the pitch, on the training, you have to try to stop him if you play.
It improves you.
Training. Yeah, so a big motivation. It was just a privilege that I could have played with him at PSV together. Yeah.
Now, we leave the Ronaldo part a little bit, but we stay that year. So you were coming from a generation of Dutch footballers that were labeled like, you guys have Dutch elegance. Your own language of football that was translated by Van Basten, by Rijkaard, players like Gullit before. And obviously you were in that generation in that bracket too. So as a player at that time, as a Dutch player at that time, do you feel that you have this certain edge, different edge compared to other players from maybe England, players from Italy, players from Germany? Do you feel that inside you?
I don't know. You're growing up in a certain culture, football culture, and that's clear. In Holland, we have a certain culture, the way we play in the league, and also most of the time in a national team. Yeah, that's the way you know football. So, and then if you play for PSV or I play for the national team, it's only a detail in difference in different coach or assignments, but the way and the style you like to play and to dominate the game and to control the ball and to let the other side run. That's something we always grew up with. Yeah.
Like when you're 21, for example, when you're 21, then you go to a tournament with your under 21 national team or whatever with the Netherlands. Then you pit with another team from Germany or from Italy or whatever. Do you stand there and feel like we are better technically than them because of our football education? Do you feel that?
That sounds really interesting, but you can be technically better, but that doesn't say that you win the game.
Yeah. That's actually true.
We experienced that quite a few times, for example, with maybe Germany or other. You think, okay, but physically or their mentality is their strength at that time. Germany developed themselves in the last couple of years very good in different ways. So you never can lean back and think, oh, we are such a good generation and we are technically good, we're going to win the games. And especially nowadays,
you cannot say that.
That won't work. What you can do is still educate your young players in the way we did. So the style and the identity of Dutch football remains.
What was Dick Advocaat like as a manager? Because it was really fascinating for me because I'm going to pick up whatever Faiz said. That generation of Dutch footballers were really elegant, were really free-flowing. There was a sense of expression about that style of play. But when you watch Dick Advocaat's team, it's a little bit more rigid. it's that 4-4-2 that it sometimes
yeah.
you look at him and think, was this guy born in England?
Yeah.
Was he, an
Was he from
English head
Italy
coach?
or something?
He's a bit anticlimactic, his style of football. Not to say that it wasn't efficient, because when it worked, it really, really worked, and he won multiple titles throughout his career, right? But what was it like for you balancing that freedom of expression that you guys had as Dutch footballers, but also with that style of football that was a bit restrictive at times?
Bear in mind, he's big in Asia. Dick Advocat. He's really
Everybody
big
knows
here.
him here.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
He's a great coach.
Yeah.
Because I worked not only at PSV with him, but also at the national team. And later, when he became coach again of PSV, I was one of the assistant coaches. So I think it's a really good coach. And actually, in my first period, it was my first time at PSV, so he always, a little bit timid, maybe not to go to the coach.
Reserve, yeah.
But I think almost everybody within the team was a little bit afraid of Dick. He was like, he could be really, really, really aggressive on top of you. So the team had a lot of respect for him, and he was very clear in the way he wanted to play. And of course, there's always some freedom with your quality you have as a player. Every player is different. You have your specialty, and he wants you to put that in the team. But within the way he wants to play as a team. And yeah, that's part of the success he had. It was for every player was clear what he wanted to see on the pitch. And maybe funny, I can share that with you. It was such a long time ago, but our captain back then was Arthur Newman, the left back.
Yeah.
Because Dick Advocat was always so aggressive in the first part of the game. So many times, if he won the toss, then you could choose sides. So if it was possible, he chose the other side. And I played also on the left side. So we played, and he said, okay, if it's 3-0 with halftime, then the second half, Dick Advocat will be a little bit more at ease alongside the pitch. So that was
Not going to hammer you, yeah? Not going to hammer.
so, yeah, but it worked, and he was very successful in that period because we won the cup and the next year the league. So it was great to work with him.
Would you say that out of all managers that you've worked with throughout your career, that Dick had the most amount of influence on your managerial style?
I think, a part, of course. But I think as a player, you will take from almost all managers some part where you think, hey, how he does it and it works. And that's interesting. So you put, I work with a lot of good managers, Van Gaal, Advocat, Hiddink, Rijkaard. So they all have their way. Even if they play the same system football, still none of them is the same. And I think some of them, some parts or training or how I manage staff or small details you will use. And if you put everything together with your own experience as player and your own vision, then you create your own vision. But yeah, a part of him, of course, I worked quite a long time with him, and it's a great one of the most successful coaches.
Talking about managerial style, Keesh, Cocu. Before this, a couple of years ago, you gave an interview to The Athletic, and you said that you would prefer to set up your team and to give them instruction on their defensive structures and whatever. But when they are about to go on an attack, then you leave them. You don't really, structure them. You don't really organize them. You let their instincts take over. Is that something that you learn from maybe Van Gaal or maybe Hiddink? Where do you pick that from?
That sometimes sounds a bit like a Dick Advocat.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I started as a winger myself in professional football, and I believe that now with all the data you can collect and all the videos you have, you get to know so much more about players than in my time. So some are really wingers with split-second decisions.
They can decide the game.
Yeah. And if I ask this player, why did you do that? Yeah, I don't know.
Instinct, yeah.
It's instinct. So if you limit those qualities too much, then he won't feel free to act upon it and make those decisions. I won't say that there are no rules and there's no structure in attack. I think it's important how we know how we get in near the box of the opponent. But if you get close, there are a lot of defenders. It's up to, now I have to make a run in behind, or now I have to.
Just to be unpredictable.
Players are gonna think, I can't do that from the coach. It limits, and especially most of the wingers or strikers are those types of players. Center back normally is more type, okay, the coach wants us to do this. I make sure that this is going to happen. It suits his character and his personality. But those Memphis kind of players, or Bergwijn,
Cody Gakpo.
That's why they make the difference for them.
I'm going to, because that unpredictability that Faiz brought up and that you expanded on, and I want to tie this back to that Ronaldo discussion again, because the one thing that everyone remembers about his unpredictability was that elastico, that step overs that he would do. And it was one of those things that you cannot measure in numbers to know where is he going to go, left or right, because every single time he does it, he just seems to beat his man. And how astonishing was it for you guys in training to watch him do it and then see him do the same exact thing on the pitch the very next day in the game?
I think for me, he was one of the first players. If he did some of his movements, or you could call it the akka, or the step over, or these movements on training, but actually also did it in the game.
In the game, yeah.
And it was one of the first players who did it on the pitch, and also never ask him why you did that movement or why he can't explain, because in the speed, because he was really fast, and the agility he still had with the speed made him so unstoppable, because he could change direction in a split second. So any defender, many of them fell over backwards, forwards, and he scored some incredible goals. So that's also a part of some of those players with that quality. They cannot think about how to dribble or to create. To be creative, you need a free mind.
I have one extra Ronaldo question before we progress the conversation, but it's not so much about Ronaldo really, because I remember reading an interview a few years ago when someone asked him, who is the best teammate you've ever played alongside? And everybody would think, oh, maybe he's going to answer Rivaldo, maybe he's going to answer Roberto Carlos, Ronaldinho. He has had some incredible strike partners over the years. But his answer was a name that not many people in world football recognize. Not many people in Malaysia don't recognize him. Most people, I know that I didn't know that name when he mentioned it. I had to go back and look him up. Luke Nilis. That is the name that Ronaldo mentioned as
Phillip
his
smiling.
greatest. Phillip smiling, exactly. That's the name that Ronaldo brought up as his greatest teammate ever. What was that understanding between Luke and Ronaldo like? Why did Ronaldo pick him as his greatest teammate?
Because Luke Niels, maybe he's not well known everywhere, but he was one of the best striker, or it was just between a second striker. And his technique and his vision and his passing and his shooting was unbelievable standard. He free kicks with left and right, shots left and right. He scored many goals. But on top of that, he didn't only score himself, but he put Ronaldo. Yeah, he just knew he could make the run, and then the ball he will arrive, because Niels always found a gap, and just the connection between the two on the pitch, was unbelievable. And he felt it. That's why maybe everybody was surprised, because he played with the best players in the whole world. That maybe a name is not well known in the whole world. But I played many years with Niels, and he was an unbelievable skillful player. He actually went to the Premier League it was, I believe, Aston Villa, but only was a short spell because he had a very bad. So maybe if he would have played longer in the Premier League, yeah, it was.
What
you
about
would know
you?
him,
Though?
better.
Were you attracted at that time, in your time at PSV or maybe in your time at Barcelona, to go to the Premier League?
I was tempted,
Was
definitely
you ever
because
being ranked by
was there a phone
Alex
call?
Ferguson or
Was there
maybe
a phone
Arsene
call?
Wenger?
well, actually, not Ferguson, but twice in my career there was some contact with Arsenal.
Oh, we are lucky you didn't say yes to him. We are very lucky.
But sometimes in football, sometimes you have to make the decision. Sometimes the club has too much money, or it's not the moment. But yeah, I've considered it a few times. But once I extended my contract at Barcelona, and the last time I went back to PSV, then also was like, do I go to the Premier League or do I go back to PSV? So you have to make sometimes a decision. Yeah.
But you extend the contract with Barcelona.
Yeah, I extended then for 2 more years.
That situation is similar to one Dutch player now who wouldn't want to.
Yeah, what's his name?
Yeah. We can't recall his name at the moment. Yeah.
No, yeah, sometimes you have to make decision. If you're happy at the club you play with, I like always, if I feel connected with the identity of the club, yeah, I feel I'm at the right place. And
When you can enjoy the Barcelona sun, Philip,
yeah,
you won't leave it.
it's a great place to play and live.
It's one of the greatest stories in football is that incredible relationship between the Netherlands and this city called Barcelona. I mean, we all know Johan Cruyff played a big part in it. But as an individual who spent all those years in Barcelona, and as someone who also just said that at that point, when you had offers to come to the Premier League, you opted to stay at Barcelona and sign a new contract. What was that relationship like? What was that connection between the Dutch identity and the city of Barcelona?
Well, yeah, it started, of course, with Johan Cruyff, with all the successes he had. But also, I think an important part of the connection is the way and the philosophy in how they play the game of football. So if you look at how we are raised and how we play in Holland, yeah, most of the Dutch players, they love the way FC Barcelona plays football. And they have their own philosophy where Johan Cruyff played a big part in. But that connection to play in the highest level for one of the biggest clubs in the world and still play football in that way. Yeah, that's what I enjoyed so much. And then I decided to stay.
Would you say the similar football education between the two, Barcelona and the Dutch?
In some grounds, of course. In Barcelona, you have the Masia.
Masia.
Look, Barcelona is one of the top teams where a lot of players from their own academy come into the first team. And that on that level of football is extraordinary. That's very hard. In my time, the young guys like Pujol, Xavi, Iniesta, they came through. And 4 years later, when I was gone, they were part of the big success and the leaders of the team. And now still young players come in the first team. And that's because of the philosophy is that clear in all the academy. And sometimes they don't play in their first year and they make a move to another club. But in many occasions, they will return later, like Piqué, back to
Ballerin, this summer.
Last day of the transfer window.
Philip, one final question before we wrap this up. Ronaldo said that Luke Nilis was his best teammate ever. Who is Phillip Cocu's best teammate ever?
Yeah, you asked me a horrible question. It's so hard to answer.
I'm sure you've been asked a lot
played,
before.
You've played alongside some incredible names over the years.
Yeah.
But who is the one guy, if tomorrow you could go back and play a game of football again, who is the one guy you would like to play alongside for one final time?
Do you have any
suggestions?
Yeah, suggestions.
I'm not going to put words in Philip's mouth.
My suggestion is either Pep or Luis Enrique. My suggestion. I don't know about him.
To be fair, a special connection with Luis Enrique. We work really great on midfield. But also I played behind Rivaldo. It was great players. It's so many
The
great
left foot,
players.
the
But
left
I
foot.
have to choose, I think, between Ronaldo, because for me, the way he played and was great, but also Ronaldinho. In my last year
yeah,
for
at
Barcelona,
Barcelona, yeah.
Ronaldinho came in, and we were having a really tough time. A lot of negativity around the club in that period, and not only by his football, but by his presence and his smile every day. He changed that, and that's still always in the back of my mind. That achievement, that our results went up and everybody enjoyed playing football again, and he was an important part of it. And he had his unbelievable football skills on the pitch. So it would
If you had to
Ronaldo
pick Ronaldo
or
or Ronaldinho
Ronaldinho.
for one final game.
Ronaldinho.
Ronaldinho.
That was 2003, if I can remember correctly. 2003, the year where Ronaldinho came from PSG to Barcelona, right?
Yeah.
2003.
That what a player. I mean, when we look through your career, when we look through some of the names that you've played alongside, it's magical, really.
Incredible.
Some of these characters, you would have had memories, feeding a through ball for some of these guys, receiving passes from some of them, leaders at the back, fellow generals in midfield, and incredible creative outlets up front. What a career, Phillip. I mean, we wish we could have this conversation with you for hours and hours, because there's
You need to come
so
again.
much.
You need to come
Because
again
there's so
another
much
time.
we would love to talk to you about. We haven't even spoken about the Dutch national team, but maybe we'll leave that for another time, Phillip. For now, Faiz and I would just like to say thank you so much for taking the time to
How do
speak
we
with
say
us.
thank you in Dutch?
Dankjewel.
Dank u wel.
Dank u wel,
It
Phillip.
was a pleasure being here.
Thank you.